Welcome, guys. I just want to dedicate this year for the continued refuah of Yaakov Dov Ben Giladina, and obviously that the hostages get released and the soldiers are protected, as well as Israel and all the Jewish people. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Rav Simcha Steinhauer for spending good time, quality time with me. This year that he gave them this issue on Mikvaos was 3 hours. 3 hours, uh, which is quite lengthy. If ever you want to listen to the original, I have the audios for you, and it's basically share number 20, 21, and 22. So my goal here was to make sure that I can give it over as simply as possible within one share, and to ensure that all of the hard work you don't have to do. That's my goal here. So I'm sure you should be very appreciative. One of the problems that we had is that ArtScroll Schottenstein releases different versions. The version that I've got from Israel Goldberg was released in 91 and was done in the late 80s. Neville Fleischman's at Chofetz Chaim was done in the mid 90s. And it's been almost, if you look at the late 80s, released in 91, it's been 34 years. So there have been some changes, and Rav Simcha's diagram has some changes to it as well, and there are different opinions and different Mishnayos. So I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to tell you a couple of the things that I've come to the conclusion of. Number one, the one thing that you should know is that a mikveh, which is obviously needs 40 se'ah of rainwater, which is 340.6 liters, in order to be kosher. Anything less than that, if drawn water, and drawn doesn't only mean from a well, it means in order to draw it from a well, you need a utensil, and that utensil is susceptible to tumah, which is spiritual impurity. That would infect the water to the degree that if you had 3 lugin of that water, which is equivalent to 1.06 liters, then the entire mikveh would be invalidated. So literally from 339 liters up to 340.6, it's pivotal that it isn't filled with drawn water. Any other liquid other than drawn water does not invalidate the mikveh. We said that's an idios in the first Mishnah, in mikveh, also in the second Mishnah, in the seventh Mishnah as well. Now, one thing to mention is that please note that if you fill a mikveh that has 339 liters of rainwater with 3 lugin of wine, it doesn't complete the mikveh. It just doesn't invalidate it. You would still need 340.6 liters of rainwater in order to complete the mikveh. Any drawn water over and above that point becomes part of the rainwater and is tahor, pure for immersion. So do you see that that doesn't complete the mixture? It merely doesn't cause its invalidation. Yeah.
Just one sec. In the modern era, we use taps and hose pipes where the water isn't getting exposed to the is that classified as drawn water or is that can you
No,
add
no,
that to
Kev,
the
let's just,
rainwater?
I'm trying to unpack 3 hours in a short period.
Ah, okay.
Modern day questions, let's just get everything at hand with then, and then we can ask everything after. Sorry, man, I don't want you to go to 3 hours of shirim. That was my goal here.
No,
Trust me.
I wouldn't listen to it anyway.
Okay, so let's just get through. All I'm saying is, I was under the impression before that if you finished it with 3 lugin of wine, you completed the mikveh. You haven't. You just haven't invalidated it. It still needs 340.6 liters, which is 40 se'ah of rainwater. And as Lance quite correctly said, it's a cistern built into the ground or a lake, according to certain specifications. It's a reservoir, basically, but it has to be attached to the ground, and it's used to purify people and utensils, as you know. So let me just go through the issues and what the primary concern was. Arthur, are you there? Are you with Nadine? Are you with a patient? Are you listening?
I'm on the bus.
Okay, it's the best we can hope for. Good. So, what we are saying is as follows. It starts off with Rav Yehuda, who said in the name of Rav. We went off on a tangent, quoting many of Rav Yehuda's statements in the name of some of the other Tanoim. And it says 3 lugin of drawn water, drawn in some sort of utensil, whether out of a well or through another source. But if you're using a utensil, that would be susceptible to tumah if it was put in a greater mixture of the mikveh, in which a quartov of wine fell. Now, we said a quartov is 1/64th of a lug, which means if you're having a quartov in an amount of 3 lugin, and 3 lugin are enough to impurify a mikveh of drawn water, we're saying 1 part out of 192 affects the equation. So 3 lugin of drawn water into which a quartov of wine fell, and whose color is the color of wine, thereby raising the question whether the mixture should be treated as water according to the majority of the mixture, or wine according to the mixture's color. So it's about content versus perception. Okay? If these 3 lugin then fell into a mikveh, which does not yet contain 40 se'ah needed to make it operationally valid, they do not invalidate it, the water in the mikveh, because the mixture is judged according to its color. So since the color is that of wine, the mixture is no longer considered water, and therefore doesn't invalidate the rainwater into which it fell. Now, obviously, the Gemara starts off with a question by Rav Kahana, who has often challenged Rav Yehuda, and he said, how can this differ from colored water? If you look at colored water, it's mainly water. Yet, if it's judged as water in accordance with the majority. And 3 lugin of colored drawn water invalidate a mikvah's water, because we learned in the Mishna, in Mikvaos, in the 7th daf, okay, that Rav Yossi says colored water invalidates a mikvah with 3 lugin. So in other words, if 3 lugin of colored drawn water was spilt into a mikveh containing less than 40 se'ah of valid water, the water in the mikveh is invalidated for further use. So this seems to contradict Rav's ruling. Now Rava comes in response to Rav Yehuda for Rav against Rav Kahana, and he says, look, in the case of colored water, the mixture is actually referred to as colored water. Since it retains the designation of water, it's treated as water. And 3 lugin of this water in a partially filled mikveh invalidates. But it's different in the case of Rav's wine-colored water, because the dilution then is not mainly only about the color. It's actually referred to as diluted wine. And since it doesn't retain the appellation of water, meaning it's not associated with a form of colored water, it's actually known as diluted wine. It's no longer classified as water, but as wine, and 3 lugin of wine do not invalidate the mikveh. So even if it's colored water, he's saying, according to this opinion, with Rav Yosef, it's referred to as diluted wine. So it's a pretty good argument, but the final challenge is going to be a little bit difficult, because Rav Chia taught in a brisa. Now, a brisa is not as strong as a Mishnah. A brisa is a source, but the Mishnah takes precedent. And it says, concerning 3 lugin of wine-colored water that fell into an incomplete mikveh, They have downgraded the mikvah's water from a valid status to an invalid status, and the water cannot be used to complete the 40 se'ah. So this brisa, guys, refers to wine, and therefore it's a clear contradiction against Rav's ruling that wine-colored water does not invalidate the mikvah's water. So Rav says it's actually no contradiction. The reason it's no contradiction is there's a difference of opinion among the Tanoim on this point. There's a ruling of Rav Yehuda who's quoting Rav, and Rav follows the view of the Tana Rav Yochanan ben Nuri. And Rav Chia is following the opinion of the rabbis, which is known as the Tana Kama, which is both the majority opinion and the anonymous consenting opinion of the rabbis. So Rav Chia is following the rabbis, and Rav is following Rav Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, because we learned in the same Mishnah, it's Mishnah 7 of Mikvaos, 3 lugin of drawn water, less a quart of, which is something less than 3 lugin of drawn water, actually, guys, into which a quart of wine fell. So now there are a total of 3 lugin of liquid in the container, not of water. And the color is a mixture like the color of wine. If these 3 lugin fell into a mikveh, they do not invalidate it. And the water in this mikveh can still be used to complete the required measure of 40 se'ah. And the reason that the mixture did not contain a full lugin of drawn water is because only that drop of wine, even if it was 1 part out of 192 of 3 lugin, that completed the 3 log measure. So unlike the drawn water, the addition of 3 log of wine doesn't in itself invalidate a mikveh. The only disqualification is actually if you had so much wine, like for example 3 login of wine, that the entire mikveh was discolored. But that's a different case. So we're saying that the issue is here is you can infer that had there been 3 lugin of drawn water besides the wine, they would invalidate the mikveh in spite of their wine-colored appearance. Why? Because if Rav Chia is going according to the Tanakama, which is the rabbinical opinion, any 3 lugin of water invalidates the mikveh despite what you put in. So similarly, 3 lugin of drawn water less a quart of, in which a quart of milk fell, and the color is now the mixture of, like water, it's basically colors by the time you dilute water. And that fell into the mikveh. They don't invalidate it because it's not a 3 lugin of drawn water. So again, let me just keep this as simple as possible. According to the rabbis, they say the color and appearance has nothing to do with it, according to this Mishnah. What has to do with everything is the content ratio. If you have 3 lugin of drawn water, they invalidate a mikveh, irrespective if you throw in wine afterwards or if you throw in milk afterwards. That water is tameh and would obviously pollute and invalidate the 339 liters of water because you haven't quite made up the 40 se'ah. According to Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, of which Rav Yehuda says Rav goes, everything depends on the color, which means if wine completes the 3 log measure, then if it looks like wine and it's got the association of diluted wine, then it doesn't invalidate the mikveh. Now, the trick is when it becomes with the milk, because with the milk, if you've got less than 3 lugin of water, less a quart of, and milk fell in, at which you don't actually have 3 lugin of drawn water. Now we're waiting for Arthur. Just give me a second. He disappeared with the bus's signal. Just hang on a second. I'm just pausing the recording.
Brewer came and they changed the plumbing and they put in taps, and that invalidated the mikveh.
Yeah.
You can't put in taps and things.
No, you can't. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. All right. So, Arth, just to let you know, with Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, everything depends on the color. It doesn't matter about the contents. What matters is the appearance. According to the rabbis, if there's not 3 lugin of drawn water, and if you even have 1 part out of 192 that is milk and it still looks like water, it's not 3 lugin of drawn water, and therefore it doesn't invalidate the mikveh. It's the same when it comes to wine. So that's the opinion between Rav Yochanan ben Nuri and the rabbis. Rav is going according to Rav Yochanan ben Nuri. Okay, guys, so far is it all clear? Pretty straightforward. Now, here's the problem. Rav Papa said it can't be. Something's wrong. Because why would it be that Rav go against the rabbis? Why? Why would he do that? Why would he go with a lone opinion with Rav Yochanan ben Nuri? It doesn't make any sense. And therefore, Rav Papa had a question and said, well, there must be different readings that have come through in history. And it turns out that there are two different Mishnas that appear. Okay? And I'm going to read it and then just share with you Rav Simcha's chart. There's one, the Gemara basically goes like this. Did Rav Nuri have the reading of Lesser Kortov in the Mishnah's first case? Okay. In other words, there were 3 lugin of drawn water, Lesser Kortov of wine fell. Okay. Because that would make a lot of sense. What we are saying then is that you could see that as far as the Tanakama or the rabbis are concerned, color isn't a factor at all. It's actually about content. And therefore, if they're not 3 lugin of drawn water, whether you have a mixture of liquid with wine or with milk, it doesn't invalidate because in the whole mikveh, because there's not 3 lugin of drawn water. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said it all has to do with the color. So that's fine, but that doesn't make sense according to Rav Papa that Rav would probably have that version. He wasn't sure. Rav, if he didn't have that reading of Lesser Kortov in the Mishnah's first case, then all of a sudden, then you're dealing with a completely different case. Okay? Then what you're doing, let me just try and see if I can save you a lot of time, is that basically, if there are more than 3 lugin of drawn water, okay, then according to, what I'm going to do, I think at this point, is just share the screen. I'm going to show you the impact that it's going to be able to have. Just give me a second. Because what we're trying to do here, in a nutshell, is we're trying to find consensus about how Rav Yochanan ben Nuri and the rabbis must agree. Because it doesn't make sense that Rav would choose a lone opinion. They might be in agreement in certain factors and not in others. And that's okay. Because if Rav Yehuda brought up Rav with that one category of agreement, then it's fine. So this is a different chart completely to the Gemara in Schottenstein. So let's look at the first version. It's as easy as anything. There are 3 lugin of drawn water, but not quite 3 lugin. It's minusing 1 part out of 192 parts. So you don't have 3 lugin of drawn water. Can you see this, guys, on the top left where it says 1? Yes or no? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So we've got 3 lugin minus 1 kortov of water. Now you add in 1 kortov of wine. Now the rabbis don't invalidate the mikveh on this. Why? Because there are no 3 lugin of drawn water. That's the bottom line. There's nothing to do with what mixture is in there. According to Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, He doesn't invalidate it for a different reason, because it's the color of wine, and therefore he sees it as diluted wine. Now, if you look at the second case, within the first Mishnah, of 3 lugin of drawn water minus 1 kotov of water, okay, then it's the same case, but here we're saying let's change one of the dynamics, and that dynamic is where 1 kotov of water is missing. What filled that 1 kotov to make 3 lugin of liquid is a kotov of milk, and the rabbis say it doesn't invalidate the mikvah. The reason is because it's still not 3 lugin of drawn water. It's a 3 lugin of a mixture of liquid, and therefore it doesn't invalidate the mikvah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said it does invalidate the mikvah. Why? Because it has the appearance of water. Do you get it? This is super simple. Trust me, I'm taking 3 hours and making it simple. You see this? That's the first Mishnah. Any questions before we move on to the second Mishnah? Guys, please ask. Lance, Arthur, Kevin, Gavin, you're all in agreement. It makes sense, yes? I just want yes.
This makes sense, yes.
Okay, good. Let's go to the second one. Now, version 2 of the Mishnah, which is Rav Pape said, he's not sure which version Rav has. Rava was convinced. I'll tell you which each one, but Rav Papa wasn't sure. So the second version didn't have a quantity. You see, this is where the art scroll made a mistake. It added confusions of less water and more. It just added to the confusion. The second version has no deduction. So you've got basically one category that there are 3 lugin of drawn water. And if there are 3 lugin of drawn water and a kotov of wine was added to that, in addition to the 3 lugin of drawn water, Rav Yochanan ben Nuri said it does not invalidate the mikveh because everything depends on the color, on the appearance. The rabbis, okay, this is the interesting part, don't invalidate it because they say that in the case of wine, they agree. They agree because it's diluted wine. However, when you use the same case with milk, so you've got 3 lugin of water, less a kotov, plus a kotov of milk. The rabbis don't postle it. Why? Even in that second version, because they're saying there's not a 3. It's a second example within the second version of the Mishnah. It's basically saying it's the color of water, but the rabbis are saying it's not about the water. It's about the content. So they still hold the same way that if it's less than 3 lugin of water, plus a quart of milk, it's still a mixture, and therefore they don't invalidate the mikveh. It's a mixture of liquid. But Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says it does invalidate it because it's the color. So what's the outcome mixing both of them? And I'm going to explain to you now. What he's saying, the implication of Mishnah 1 in case 2, is that the rabbis say that if there are 3 lugin of water with no color, they invalidate the mikveh. But if there are 3 lugin of water, but in addition there's wine, it's seen as diluted wine, and it doesn't invalidate the mikveh. Rav Yochanan ben Nuri says it's based on the color entirely, whether they're less than 3 lugin of water plus wine, meaning it's not a full ligun, then it doesn't invalidate the mikveh. But if it's 3 lugin of water minus a quart of plus milk, because it's the color of water, it invalidates the mikveh. So bottom line, we merge the two, and we say in all cases, Rav Yochanan ben Nuri says the appearance is everything. Doesn't matter about the mixture. the content or anything. The rabbis say that if there are 3 lugin of water plus a kortov of wine, they still diluted wine and it doesn't invalidate the mikveh. But in a case of milk, there's still 3 kortov of water plus milk, and therefore it doesn't have any color, so it invalidates the mikveh. So the rabbis require to merge both the case 2 factors. What factors do they consider? Okay, is that I'll tell you exactly what they consider. Is that there needs to be there basically needs to be at least 3 lugin of liquid in order to disqualify, and they must not be colored. Both factors. Does everybody see that? Guys?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay. So, accordingly, accordingly here, Rava is obviously of the opinion that Rav had the first reading, lesser Kortov. He's got no doubt. Rav Yosef state that Rav had the second. Okay? He had no doubt, but Rav Papa wasn't sure which one he had. That's the bottom line. But this is how we can reconcile it. And we know this because basically in the end of this, it says, look, true, it was a question to Rav Papa, but to Rav it was clear that Rav was consistent only with Rav Yochanan ben Nuri. But Rav Papa said, if we've got the right sort of mergence, he could have also had consensus with the Tanna Kamma in the case of the wine. Rav Yosef said, look, I haven't heard this statement from our Rabbi Yehuda. He was a student. And Abaya said to him, because he suffered from dementia, and he would gently remind Rav Yosef of the things that Rav Yosef taught him about his teacher, Rav Yehuda, and said, listen, you did tell it to us. This is how you told it to us. You said the Mishna mikvahs regarding the 3 lugin of water in which a kortov of wine fell. You related Rav's ruling to us and proceeded to explain that Rav didn't have the reading of lesser kortov in the Mishnah's first case. So according to you, Rav Yosef, is that Rav Yochanan ben Nuri disagrees with the Tanna's Kamma, ruling only in regards to the Mishnah's latter case of milk. And Rav's ruling is explained according to both views. So you can see now how everything works. It all coincides. Does it all make sense, guys?
Can you please share that page?
Yes, I'm going to add it to the Bava Kamma group. And I'd like to just thank Rav Simcha, because I'll tell you something, going through these 3 hours.
Yes.
And I'm trying, believe me when I tell you I've made it simple. Believe me, I'll give you 3 hours. It'll aid you in the best way possible. All right, so I don't know how long we've got left, but I think we can, before Kevin teaches us, I just want to share 1 or 2 things with you guys for a minute quickly. And the first thing is that I was having a chat with Arthur the other night, and we had a bit of a laugh and consensus, because there are many days that I'm sure you've have where you just feel that everything is like so frustrating that you kind of figure like, I don't care whether the 3 lugin of drawn water or 2.2 lugin or how big the mikveh is. There's almost a fatigue where you kind of like, it seems like irrelevant. And there are a couple of things I thought about this over Shabbos, because I was speaking to Rabbi Ron Cohen and Rabbi Goldschmidt, etc., is that one of the things to bear in mind is that Gemara itself is meant to give you an appreciation of reason, logic, and applying the principles of the Torah to come to a practical and halachic understanding of taking spiritual principles and applying it to everyday life. But it's not the bottom line of halacha of how the cases are judged. We obviously go with the rabbinical Tanna Kamma, but it's about teaching you the beauty of the cases of the law. If you want the bottom line law, it's there. It's there in the Mishnah Brura. It's there in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, depending if you are Ashkenaz or Sephardi. The thing of it is, I think part of the issue is a lot of people became frum and started learning Gemara, but they never really understood that or were 100% convinced that either the written Torah was true or the oral Torah was true, or something went fuzzy after 2 or 3 decades where it kind of felt like, okay, these are nice ideas, or who cares, or whatever the case may be. So I think, unfortunately, a lot of people have gotten into, including myself, Gemara fairly early without the basic principles being outlined, because this is the problem with the Baal Tshuva. I think first principles, like when we went to yeshiva with Rabbi Akiva Tatz and Rabbi David Gottlieb, etc., about how do you know the written Torah is true? Historical verification of the Torah. How do you know the oral Torah is true? How do you apply these learning principles? How was the Mishnah deducted? How was it all put together? And mixing that sort of base understanding also with a more supplemental, nutritionally balanced, if I could say this, form of Torah learning, where you've got Parsha, you've got Musa, you've got Midrash, and things also that interest you. Because if this doesn't interest you, then this is not going to be a reason where a person's going to keep from, or enthusiastic, even if they keep from. So I do think that there are a lot of amazing rabbis out there. There's Rabbi Zev Leff, there's Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, there's Rabbi Gedalia Fenster. There are people that can inspire you to almost reframe your paradigm and get you to work on yourself. There's also a lot of secular sources like Tony Robbins and a myriad of people that can get your head right. But the thing of it is, if you're expecting learning Gemara to make you care whether there's a Kortov or less a Kortov, it's not about that. It's about trying to understand why Hashem is sharing with us these details and what they're meant to teach us about thinking process. Because what it should do after years of learning your Gemara, it's meant to change your neuro-linguistic and spiritual patterning in the way you apply your mind with spiritual solutions to everyday practical problems, according to the Ratzon and will of how Hashem wants you to live in the world. So it means if it's not doing it for you, there's certainly information missing in terms of verification that the Torah is true. And besides from which, not a balanced diet in terms of how you're learning your Torah. There are certain things you're interested in, you're just not learning. And that's what you should learn to get you up in the morning. Kevin, teach us.
Okay, so just a quick thing about a kortov. The easiest way to remember what it is, if you remember from Afrikaans, the word kort means short. So kortov is a very tiny quantity. So
that's quite
the way.
nice. That's actually quite nice, Kev.
Okay, so just one interesting thing about the parsha with the Vayigash that we read on, was it Vayigash? Anyway, the last parsha we read on Shabbos, where Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, and he asks the brothers, or I think Yehuda, Yehuda was pleading with him and discussing things with him. He said, they were talking about Yaakov, and Yehuda said, my father, your servant. And Joseph never rebuked him. He accepted it. And that was actually an insult to Yaakov, who was one of the Avot. And they say he lost 10 years of his life for not correcting what Yehuda said. It's his father, not his servant. And these people were held to such a high level that we, like Moshe, never went into Israel because he hit the rock instead of speaking to it. And we are on such a low level, we don't understand such a minor thing like that. I mean, 99% of the things he did were Shem Shamayim and for a higher purpose. And he does one thing wrong, and he doesn't go into Israel. And the same with Yosef. So it's just I don't know if there's a lesson in that, but we should try and do our best at what we do, and try and be conscious of what people say and correct them. And if we can even decipher that someone has said something in the wrong way, we need to put them straight. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. Just one quick thing is that if you really want to get an understanding of Gemara learning, I think the best thing is if you do broad and deep, meaning like what we do with is when you do Daf Yomi. I think Daf Yomi is a little fast, to be honest, because Rabbi Ron Cohen, he does a daf and a half per session, which is an hour, and half of it's Aramaic, so you got 30 minutes, so you got 10 minutes in Amud each. It's too fast for me to be able to cope because already he's way ahead. So that doesn't work for me, but it might work for some. Definitely works as Chazorah. But the point of it is if you learn, just hang on, Kevin, if you learn as broad as possible and you learn as deep as possible and you've got two different styles, it'll deal with the issue quite well because you need a contextual relevance. So I think a daf and a half is a bit fast 5 times a week. I'd rather do a daf 7 times a week than a daf and a half to get to the same quantity, or even an amud a day. So broad and deep, guys, it's going to make the world of difference. Yeah, okay.
So Damon, you could say, if you do a daf and a half a day, you don't want to do it because you don't want to daf the daf.
I don't want to daf the daf, yeah. But on a serious note, broad and deep, because otherwise
Yeah.
you'll be hacking away at a tree and not see the bigger forest. And sometimes if
The
you
wood
look
for the
at the
trees.
forest,
Yeah.
you're not going to appreciate the in-depth cell structures of the tree. You need everything. You actually just need to have the discipline to work out your time, what you can manage, what you're enthusiastic about. If something's going to bore you to tears, don't do it.
Yeah,
There's
because
things that you
some
don't
people
know
should,
that
yeah.
don't be interested. Yeah. Guys, thanks for meeting today. I wish you all
Scott, Damon, thanks for that.
good.
Jeez, for
And
summarizing
well
that
done
fast.
for taking, well done for taking 3 hours because I can imagine how difficult that must have been.
Jeez.
So well done for doing that as well.
Like a boat, man. Yeah.
Pleasure, guys. Be well.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.